Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Plaistow's Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, January 25th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. And before we do a roll call, I must read our little Governor's Emergency Order number 12, which is pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. We are authorized to meet electronically. The board is utilizing GoToWebinar program of the GoToMeeting platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting throughout the GoToMeeting program, and the public also has access to contemporaneously listen to the meeting. The link to the meeting is provided on the town website. The public may call in for comment at 603-382-5200, extension 290 during public comment. They can either watch the meeting on cable TV on channel 17 or live stream it at livestream.com/Plaistow. If anyone would like to make a comment or ask a question by email, please email Beth Hossack at Plaistow.com, and any questions and comments received by 3:00 p.m. on Monday will be read at the meeting. So with that, may I have a roll call, Beth?
Select Chair, Ms. Hart.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Talion.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Kishka.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Blinn, I believe, is joining us remotely.
Here.
And Selectman Mr. Talion, Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
And also note for the record, Town Manager Mr. Pearson is joining us remotely.
And also note for the record, because we have one selectman that is attending remotely, all of our motions and votes will be done by roll call vote. So without further ado, could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. I am going to forego public comment tonight and get right into our public hearing. So I would like to open the public hearing at 6:32 p.m. And before I ask people to comment about it, just a couple of little housekeeping things. I'd like to keep this public comment to approximately 1 hour. We have a huge agenda, and I want to be able to plow through it before midnight. And I'm also going to respectfully ask that anyone who wishes to speak to have a 2-minute window for that, and that will allow everyone to speak at least once. And I think the last thing I might want to say before we do this is I want everybody to know out there that it was never the intention of our board to eliminate recycling. We were just trying to find a way to do this cost effectively so it didn't cost the town 6 figures. So I'm hoping everybody understands that. And so with that, I will open up the public hearing at 6:32. And I believe the first person that would like to come up and speak is Mr. Jim Peck. So come on up and give us your name and your address.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just while Dean's queuing that up, I do have 4 other people to see me 2 minutes. I can read you the names if you want.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so it'll take about 10 minutes, depending on questions. I wanted to go through this. I've gone through it with Jay, with a version of it with you two, and with Julian. And I was here on October 26th. I spoke about curbside recycling. I supported 100%. And at that time, I recommended a public hearing. So I'm glad to see you're having a public hearing now. At January 11th, I again spoke. I recommended that you rejuvenate the track, and I'm glad to see you doing that. I also recommended we have a public hearing. So thank you. So I'm going to slide over here if it's all right, Dean. And John, I apologize to you. You were in Aruba. My wife wouldn't let me go to Aruba to show this to you.
Yeah. Dean, can you mic him?
Sorry about that. Okay, so what we were trying to do is answer these two questions. As everybody knows, there's a petition warrant on the ballot this year, and I believe it's 2115 now. I just saw the new voters guide. So what we're asking is the question as to whether or not the 295 is what we need to accommodate recycling, curbside recycling in the solid waste collection budget. So the question is, how much more do we need to add to the existing budget? This is the budget from the Budget Committee, 768, 437. Again, this is for solid waste collection, and you see the footnote there. It does not include $21,000 for household hazardous waste collection. That's when each town has a hazardous waste. We're not including that in here. Also doesn't include any expected charges for bulk collection. I know there will be some charges, but I know that those charges have kind of estimated this time, so I don't have that in here. But I believe that when I get through, that it will be able to accommodate those.
Jim, what is both numbers on the previous slide?
I don't know how to go back here, Dean. Oh, back arrow.
Yeah, you basically
sorry?
say both numbers exclude.
Well, we just excluded it completely, whatever it is.
No, what are you excluding it from? It says both numbers exclude a separate 21,000 recommended.
Oh, I'm sorry, there used to be two numbers up there. I should have made it just that. It's just
Oh,
the
okay.
768.
So you got the Budget Committee and the
I
BOS.
originally had the 803 budget. I took
Okay.
it off. I
Thank
didn't
you.
fix the footnote. I apologize for that. Okay, what are the assumptions? I think these are consistent with at least what I've seen that you guys have made. You've decided to go with automated collection, not manual, with lease carts, trash and recycling. So that's my assumption here. You've decided to do trash, but I included also recycling for carts. So if you go for trash, for carts for trash, you'll have to go for a trash for recycling, obviously. Separate vendor for carts, I know you've already selected it. I think you may even sign a contract
did.
on that for the trash side. 3,600 annual tons of trash. That's based upon last year's number, final number of 3,509. So a slight increase in 2021. 700 annual tons of curbside recycling versus 680. That was the number in 2020. 3,200 households. I think that's all consistent with what you assume. So here's the calculation. I made this simple based upon the other presentation that we had. The footnote includes the calculation. I can run through that if you will. Everybody knows that we have 6 more months of JRM. That contract runs out June 30th. So we have a contract. We know how to estimate that. And so we estimated that, and the total number that we estimated is in the footnote there. I can run through it if people want to, but the total for the first half would be 392,468. That's the estimate.
Okay.
If nobody has any question on that, I can move to the second one, just to give you the big picture. We looked at the Casella contract bid for last August, which was a bundled bid for both recycling and trash, as opposed to the current bid, which is just a trash bid. We use that as a base
Excuse
to
me, Jim.
calculate
It's not a
the
bid, it's a
number. Let me
proposal.
just finish my thought, and so we came up with 466,087. So we're saying that the total required would be 858,555. And I will say one thing, and it may be your question. I know that there's a new bid for Casella.
It's not a
Okay,
bid.
it's not a question.
It's
Then
a
I'll skip
proposal.
that and I'll go
It's a
ahead.
proposal. You can't say it's a bid. It's a proposal.
Excuse me?
There's a different definition of the two.
I have to turn on my hearing aid. I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you want to ask him a question?
I just had a point of order. I'd like to hear him speak, and then we can talk about the details.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
So all I'm suggesting is that the term that you want to use is proposal and not bid. Excuse me.
I'll ask a question.
Excuse
All
me.
right, all right.
Fine.
Excuse me, point of order to Julian. Let's him finish his presentation. We can discuss it after he's finished, please.
Thank you.
All right,
Go ahead,
whatever.
go ahead.
I'm open. So the 858 is what we would require. And so if you take the 858 and you subtract the 768, it should say 768,437, but the difference is approximately 90,000, and that would be $28 per household using the 3,200 households. So what we're saying is that we could accommodate curbside recycling if we added $90,000 to the current operating budget. And the second bullet looks at a proposed budget from the Selectmen. I don't know if anybody listening in knows this, but I believe, and you can confirm it, I believe you're talking about possibly adding to the budget already. So if you did do that, then the addition, there would be $55,000. So what's the impact in the future? You can't just look at 2021 and say we can get away with 90,000. What's going to happen in the future? The Casella bid in August was based upon 4.5% increase each July 1st. I understand that that may be going down to 4%, but I use 4.5% here. So the 2021 number that I just mentioned would be 858,555. The 2022 number would be 953,038, and that looks like a big jump, but that's because you get a full year of carts, and that causes about 4.5% on top of the 4.5%. Plus, we made, if you recall, we made an estimate that the tonnage would go up for recycling for 20 tons. So that's about 1%. And then from that point on, the fees would go up 4.5%, and then 995, 1,040,000, and so on. So what are we recommending? Well, what we're concluding, and this has been reviewed by a number of people, and I think they all concur, the recycling group that we put together, the number of people, some of the selectmen have reviewed it with Jay, and everybody who's looked at it thinks this makes sense. So what we're suggesting at this point in time is to amend the operating budget by $90,000, and I want to read this because this is the intent of that amendment. When you do an amendment to an operating budget, you don't put the intent in it. You just say increase to a certain level. That's the proper wording. But this is the intent. The intent is to be added to the solid waste collection line item for the purpose of fully funding curbside recycling and automated curbside cart collection of both trash and recycling. So we're talking about an additional amount so that you can fit it within a contract. And we're pretty sure that that would be. The second thing that we're recommending is that the BOS sign a trash and curbside recycling contract commencing July 1st. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the conclusion.
I just had a quick question for you. Within your calculations, did you account for a second recycling cart purchase in all of that? You did, okay.
Yeah, you gave me 20,000 for half a
Okay.
year, so I used 40,000 for the whole year.
All right.
I think it's slightly higher than trash was 18,430. For some reason, it's slightly
Yeah,
higher.
well, we're going to have to look at transportation and material costs, which have already gone up since we signed our prior contract, so, okay, great. No, I just wanted to know if you included
I
that.
think one of my conclusion is that we're comfortable that we can get a contract and we can do it with 855,000, which is the number, I think that was the number, 858,555.
Okay, all right.
I want to say one thing, this is a worst-case scenario, because when we look at the tonnage rate for recycling, we weren't charged a tonnage rate under JRM at all. There was no tonnage rate.
Right.
We got away with that. Now we're being charged a tonnage rate. We've assumed a tonnage rate of $247 a ton. And the way we got that is we took the suggested number at 10% contamination from Casella. We don't have 10% contamination. The suggested number from them was 123.50. So we just simply doubled it. And I think that's way too high. I just saw Danville's contract with Casella for recycling, and they're paying about 123 per ton. So I think the 247 and the 855 is probably high by as much as 50,000. So I'm personally convinced, and I think other people are convinced, that we can add to the budget, and the 90,000 is the worst-case scenario.
Okay, and I think Julian had a question for you.
Yeah, I just want to go back to some of the slides, just for transparency, to correct some assumptions. I'd like to go back to slide 4. I know it came up during discussion, it's not part of your thing, but it was said that we already selected Casella. That vote failed last Monday meeting. It's
No,
not
I
official,
don't-
it's
I
not
took-
official
I
yet.
took that assumption off. I had
I
Casella.
know, but
I've taken
it was
that
just, I
off.
think, I may have misinterpreted Francine's answer. we're probably going to, but it hadn't been officially done.
Right.
As of yet.
Yeah, I
just
know
wanna
I
make that
had
one
originally,
correction.
when you guys reviewed it
Yeah.
before, I had Casella, and that's not, I shouldn't do that because, you know, it's up to you to decide which vendor it
I
is.
understand. Slide 5, you have basically, one of the reasons you come up with the number for this year, which is the total, which is correct, is only because the first half of the year, it's at a much lower rate. And so what happens is, if it hadn't been for the savings in the first 6 months, it would actually be about 74,000 more, which is the difference between the first and second half. And there's nothing incorrect here. I just want to point out, for transparency for the public, that if it wasn't for the half-a-year contract we still have to go, it would be 74,000 more. So I just want to correct that.
Well, I just,
Yeah.
I could say, that's why I showed you 2022.
Yes, I don't need to
Yeah.
defend it yet. I haven't said anything that you said
Right.
wrong yet.
Okay.
Slide 6. And you had the red numbers on the side. And because for that reason, you said that it would be $17 per household. Let's go by I don't know which one you want to use, the Budget Committee or the Board of Selectmen. Either way, it's $17 or $28 more. That's not a lot of money. I agree. And I know it's divided by 3,200 households, you say?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things here, it's assuming that all households are actually real estate taxpayers. We know that's not true because renters don't directly pay tax. And we also know by average, and it has to be a mean, that some of the group communities don't pay as much in tax as, let's say, a single homeowner does. And of course, there's a big range there as well. I just want to correct that just for numbers purposes so that everybody doesn't think it's only going to be $28 from me. So that's, I guess it's the best estimate you can get, because I don't think we have a number of how many are single households or who's a renter, and we don't have those numbers off the top of our head. So I just want to say these numbers will be actually lower than reality. Slide number 7. We have the 2021 budgeted, what you're suggesting, which the numbers look like they add up. And that's based on the increase, again, like I said before, of only 6 months left. If you go to 2022, that's the real number it costs you to have recycling, because that's a full year. The real number for 2022, which is next year, that will be in your taxes if it's decided this way. That's 95,000 more from the 2021. And if you look at that, that's another $30. Even if you divide by the larger 3,200 number, that's $30 more you'll pay the following year for, in addition to what the addition is this year. So I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying I think it's fair to the taxpayer to know that it's not going to stop at 28 more. It's going to be next year because it's the full year. And I just want to do this for transparency. I'm not arguing your point, and I'm not arguing against it.
No, I
just want the
appreciate that.
public
I just
know
want to
that.
make one comment on that. That increase from year to year is not all recycling.
Yeah,
That is an increase, the 4.5% increase on your base, which is 330, well, it's 261,000. So you could have an increase on your regular trash. That 90,000 is maybe one half or 1/3 is recycling, and the rest of it's trash and carts. Carts is the big item.
yeah, we know it's all an estimate.
Okay.
We know that.
So are you both finished so that I
just wanted to make
can?
those points.
Yeah,
to the
no, you
public,
made
and to be
excellent
honest
points.
with the public that
I
it's
think
not going to
that's
stop at
excellent.
28.
Yep, you made excellent points, and I think you should go on record for that to do a counterpoint. But if you're both finished, and thank you, Jim,
I
for
am.
the
It says stop here.
presentation. Okay, great. What I'd like to do is
Thank you for coming in.
before we talk to the people who are online waiting, I'd like to ask if there are any people here present that would like to speak first. Bob, come on up. And if you could say your name and your address, and that would be great. And yeah, you can sit in that chair, and I believe you can use that microphone right there to speak. Yep, thank you.
Hey, everybody. My name is Bob Kincaid. I'm from live on Old County Road. So as one of the members of the recently formed Plaistow Recycling Group, I obviously support recycling and the recommendations from the presentation Jim and I created that Jim just presented. More specifically, I support town-wide curbside models, which is what we've basically had for, as I understand it, 30 years. I've done my research. Town-wide curbside systems are the most efficient, cost-effective, and convenient way to deal with our town's municipal solid waste as a whole, including both landfill trash and recyclables. As we saw in the presentation, we concluded that town-wide curbside recycling can be retained with an increase of no more than, we believe, $28 per household. Obviously, there's some question on that, but that was the best number we could come up with in a good faith estimate. This projection was based on the only bundled quote available to us. By bundled, I mean the service provider quoted the cost for both trash and recycling in the same quote. It's my belief that by doing that, there are savings achieved. So my simple ask of you all tonight is that before confirming a final vendor and before losing any possible bargaining power, I would ask, whoever's doing the negotiation here to obtain refreshed versions of the bundled August quote, and then do no further action until after the deliberative. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, is there anyone from the audience that would also, again, like to come up to speak? And name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Mary Ann Locascio. I live at 8 Sunrise Terrace, and I as well am on the recycling committee.
Good.
Really wanted to voice my concerns. I do believe that curbside recycling is extremely important. People are used to doing that, and I think that it is regressive if we even think about either doing a transfer station that makes it that people have to take their trash elsewhere. People will tend not to do that. I think one of the biggest problems with our contamination is going to be the education piece, and I am willing to get on the track committee, and I'm also willing to put forth the effort. I've done a ton of research since finding out about all this, just since December 30th, so I apologize that I haven't been here listening, but I really feel confident that we have a great community, that we could continue with the curbside recycling, put in an active participation in the track committee, move forward with curbside recycling and education, and that would decrease the contamination. Apples to apples, either way, the budget is going to have to come up, because if we decide that we can't, either we do a transfer, not curbside, that's going to increase the trash. We're in a pandemic, of course, everybody knows. Everybody's ordering. We have more trash, more cardboard, paper. So that's just going to increase the trash capacity of all these households. So that being said, I do ask that everybody thinks about keeping that curbside. And as Bob had said, and Jim, I think they both had great aspects. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much for coming in, and we really appreciate your efforts and being willing to join the track committee, because it's exactly what we're looking for and what we need. So thank you. All right, thank you. Is there one more speaker that would like to come up?
Hello, I'm Richard Anthony, live at 4 Village Way, and I just basically want to amplify this presentation. It was an excellent presentation. It's put the issue at the forefront, and I think the question of recycling, we don't want to go backwards. It's a mindset, and I know that there's been some concern with respect what happens with the trash afterwards. And I think we should keep that in the back of our minds for like a next generation type approach. There are things that we can do, that we can work with our elected officials in New Hampshire to talk about what we can do with things like plastic that other communities overseas predominantly do right now. They don't recycle, they don't grind up, and they don't bury it. They'll actually render it into some sort of a diesel, and that's an existing technology. And we can work with maybe our state officials to talk about some sort of like a regional type compact of some kind. But, so for those people that think that don't do it now because we're throwing it in the ground, whoever we're sending it to, that's something that we can talk about later. Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, very good points. One
right,
of those being we don't have a deposit program in the state of New Hampshire, which other states do.
So I believe everyone that is present here has spoken. So Dean, if you wouldn't mind going on to the webinar and
Okay. I do have 24 attendees connected with us at the moment, and 3 of which who have either raised their hands or put up a question. So do you want me to just call on them in the order that they've?
please. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much. Thanks.
I'm going to bring on first Rick and Christine Perrin. Let's see what we can do to.
Yeah, is there an address that they can give us as well?
I'm gonna put them on.
Okay.
So I'll make her panelist. Okay, so Rick and/or Christine, you can now turn on your microphone and. Okay, I don't know if they're currently with us. I'll go on to the next one.
Go on to the next one. Yep, thanks.
Let's see here. Okay, I have also Ryan Lebrecht. I will put Ryan on.
Okay.
Ryan Lebrecht, are you with us?
A seance.
I think you have to unmute, the button is a mute button.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, they have to.
They have to
on
unmute
end.
their button, right.
Okay. Okay, we have a few more hands coming on. Just bear with me. Okay, the next one, I'm just gonna keep going until I
Yep,
can get
yep,
somebody.
and then we can go back and see
Okay,
if anybody
yeah,
else
I'm
wants
gonna,
to.
next, I'm gonna bring on Peter Bielo. Peter, are you with us?
Is the volume up?
Let's see.
Is our volume up?
Okay.
Well, yeah, he
They're saying they're
does.
getting comments, but we're not getting their comments here.
All right. Is it possible, Dean, would you be able to read some of the comments?
Yes, yes.
And at least we'll have that.
Okay, I'll read off the comments in order to come in, and I just want to get to the bottom of why
Yeah.
we're not hearing and they are.
Yeah.
First off, Ryan Lebrecht had asked, please provide the projected cost of recycling. And he also asked what other things can be done to reduce the cost of trash collection. How are multifamily properties handled? Proposals include 85 to 100K for dumpster pickup, et cetera. And
Okay, maybe,
we're having some problems here.
all right, well, maybe while you're looking through that, maybe we can answer a couple of those questions. I believe Mr. Peck had given us some indications of what the estimated potential for recycling costs were. Some of the other things that I think we personally can do.
Hold on, I think we've resolved the issue.
Oh, all right,
I think during the PowerPoint it was muted.
okay.
So let me go back in order.
Okay.
Ryan Lebrecht, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. we're in business.
perfect.
Okay,
Yep, go
let's
ahead, Ryan, give us your address and ask your question.
Fantastic. 174 Main Street. Thanks for the committee that put together the proposal. It's helpful. Appreciate the efforts. Appreciate the efforts of the BOS as well and the budget committee. I as well support recycling, curbside recycling pickup. However, I don't support it at a extra cost. I feel that other things need to be adjusted in order to absorb that cost. For that reason, in thinking about the trash, I reviewed all of the August and December trash proposals and spreadsheet provided by the BOS. I see that there's I don't know, $85,000 to $100,000. I saw in one quote for dumpster pickup. From my understanding, I know the town has some dumpsters in different places, but seems like those are also at multifamily properties. I assume that none of that cost are at businesses. Is that correct?
That's correct. Businesses pay separately and not part of our budget.
Okay, and so to that point, and again, I'm not anti-landlord. I own property myself in other cities and towns, and in those towns, multifamily properties are required to pay for their own trash pickup, and they have their own dumpster services directly with providers. Has it been considered to, since we don't provide trash collection to businesses, and a multifamily property is a business, requiring the multifamily property owners to pay for their own trash collection directly with whoever they want to contract, as is customary in some other towns?
That has not been considered, but thank you for that comment. I'm sure the board will take that into consideration when they're doing their deliberations. Did you have any more comments before we go to the next person?
In regards to bulk pickup, have anyone given any thought to maybe say have I know Julie and I spent some time in Hawaii, and in Hawaii, the bulk pickup happens once a month, and it's actually, a good time. We have a good time walking around the neighborhood looking for junk to pick up because, we're recyclers and we like to upcycle and we buy used and support all of that. Has anyone considered, instead of having a pickup at each individual house, maybe people deliver to a parking lot, some central area of the city, and on a Saturday, Sunday, and have sort of a pickup flea market in one location, and then on Monday have the trash recycler come pick it up in one location instead of having to pay to drive around the entire town to do so. And, to support that, maybe have a town dump truck available on a one day to pick up stuff and bring it to that one location to help defray the cost of whatever trash company we select to gallivant around the town and pick up these bulk items.
Our town Board of Selectmen liaison for our track committee is busily writing down your suggestions. So thank you for that. Is there anything else before I go to the next person?
And lastly, we have several. So there's a warrant article, citizens warrant article for this purpose. Does that citizen warrant article go away, or is it being modified to just say 90,000, whatever the dollar value in the presentation, increase? And if so, like the other $800,000+ of proposed warrant articles, why shouldn't that be taken from general funds with no new taxation if that's the case?
I believe the idea is at deliberative session, the legislative body, which is you, the taxpayers, get a chance to adjust not only the budget, but all of the warrant articles. So it is my understanding that the first attempt will be to adjust our operating budget to accommodate this extra money. And then if that should pass at deliberative session, the citizens petition will be adjusted back accordingly. So if it doesn't pass on the operating budget, people will still have an opportunity to vote on the citizens petition. But I do want to say something about the unassigned fund balance. The unassigned fund balance is to be used for very specific things, and it is not to be used to offset a taxable appropriation on an operating budget. That's not what it's supposed to be used for. It's not lawful to do that. So we can't just take it out of the unassigned fund balance. The only thing that we could use unassigned fund balance for is to reduce taxes or to fund projects for the town. And this past year, in 2020, we were able to reduce our municipal tax rate by 8%, without touching the unassigned fund balance. So that's a little bit of a misconception that people have, that we can just use the unassigned fund balance for whatever we want, and that is not accurate. But it's getting a little bit late, and I've given you kind of more than 2 minutes, so if you're all set, I would like to go to the next person, but you made some excellent points, sir, and I thank you for participating.
Just one more comment based on that. So if the operating budget is increased, then the unassigned fund balance could be credited back to reduce taxes to offset the increase, correct?
No, not necessarily. That's a Board of Selectmen decision.
Right, but it could happen.
It could. Okay, thank you, sir, for your input, and we're going to go on to the next person.
Okay, next I have Rick and Christine Perrin. Are you with us? Do you want me to go to the next?
Go to the next one,
Okay,
yeah, we can go
Peter
back.
Bielo, are you with us?
As much as I ever am.
Okay.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing you, Peter.
Okay, great. First off, thank you for letting me speak. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is that I'm, fully in agreement with Jim Peck and Bob Kincaid and the rest of the recycling group that's been formed. I also want to highlight that this is, in some ways, I know this is all painful for you folks, but this has also been a very good thing. A lot of new, I'll call them people who haven't been involved in town have come out with this. And I think we're going to see more people running for offices, available for committees and such, because this has been so perceived as so painful for them. So anyhow, so there is good from all this. But the main point I really want to make is that I believe that you folks need to go out with a totally new request for proposal that contains both trash and recycling. If you rely on the most recent quotations or proposals that are trash only and sign up with one of those companies, that puts us in an awful negotiating position on recycling. As someone who's been involved with marketing large complex systems, and Julian knows what I'm speaking of. We worked at the same company for a while, but at different times, same company. If a customer had come to me asking for a basic unit and I quoted it and they ordered it and then came back later with modifications, I guarantee you those modifications cost a lot more than they might have originally. Okay? So going out for two RFPs is just the worst possible position for us. The worst. Okay? So I strongly encourage you to redo the RFP, go out to multiple companies, and I also suggest you have people who've been doing these kind of requests for proposal for many, many years, like our town manager and finance director, actually involved doing the writing and negotiations.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Bielo. We appreciate your comments.
Okay, now I'm just trying to bring everyone in the best order. I can't keep track of what order they came in, but I'm going to bring on next Deborah Esparza, St. Louis. Deborah, are you with us?
Or good evening, and thank you for letting me voice my opinion about this subject. I'm new to Plaistow for the past year and a half, and this is one of my, I guess, go-to buttons is recycling. I've been in many communities that do it different ways, but what is really successful is the curbside recycling. Number one is that it's convenient for folks, for homeowners, because we're going through our trash, we're rinsing out our recyclables, we're putting them out onto the curb, and we're feeling like we've done something decent for the environment. So I support the group, I'm part of the committee that brought this issue in front of you folks, and I intend to volunteer for the track committee as well. So my thought is, if we can stay with the curbside, town-wide recycling, and I know it gets bundled with vendors like Casella and Waste Management and so on, and they know best in how efficiently to take care of those services. So I'm in full support and ask you to consider the presentation and the folks who are voicing their opinions tonight.
Thank you so much for your opinion, and I truly appreciate your willingness to join the track committee as well. Could you spell your last name for our note taker, Deborah?
ESP as in Paul, ARZA, St. Louis, STLOUIS.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you, Deborah. Good night.
Do you have an address?
Good
Oh,
night.
I'm sorry. Did you give us an address too? I thought you did. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, 290 Main Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Isabel Gautreau, you're now online. Are you with us, Isabel?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Could you
Okay.
tell
name
us
is Isabel
your full name and your address, please, Isabel?
My name is Isabel Gautreau, and I live at 185 Main Street. And I wanted to thank you for having the public hearing and letting us speak, and also for your work. You can't make everybody happy, and it's a tough situation sometimes. I wanted to speak out in favor of curbside recycling because it's an important thing to do. My family and I were at Galveston Beach 2 years ago, and the beach is littered with little bits of plastic. The kids are playing it, people are swimming in it, which is basically our own trash. And it takes up to 500 years for plastic to break down. Every time we eat animal products, we eat microplastics. So recycling is only one thing that absolutely has to happen. Many other things have to happen, but recycling is one. We absolutely have to do it. And I will pay $28. I will pay more for townwide curbside recycling. It is a problem right now because there is a void in what to do with our recyclables. The market is not good. So it's the worst time for anybody to try to come up with a new contract is basically right now. And Plaistow is kind of in the thick of it now. But I think that the technology will catch up and the market is going to get better. Things will change. And while we're waiting for that to happen, I don't think we can go backwards. I think that voting on trash only without townwide curbside recycling included would be short-sighted, and it would limit our ability to negotiate, like Peter Bilo said. And I fully support Bob and Jim's presentation they made earlier.
All right, thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it.
Can you ask her to spell her last name, please?
It's Gautreau, I believe. Is that correct, Isabel?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you and good night.
I have Jeff Oligny. Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you spell your last name and give us your address, please, Jeff?
Yes, Jeff Oligny, O-L-I-G-N-Y, 28 Main Street. Thanks for putting this on and your hard work, folks. And for the comments, boy, some excellent comments.
Yep.
Particularly Ryan, I was interested in his comments. I as well support recycling if it's a no additional cost alternative. I'm not sure that it is. I'm coming in a little cold to this business here. Could somebody just clarify the scope of the RFP? Was it to continue with the customary trash plus recycling scheme? Is that what we sent out in an RFP?
Actually, no. What we were trying to do was look for alternative recycling that did not have a six-figure price tag for our taxpayers, because this is, we just went through a very tough year last year, and it looks like we're going to go through another tough one this year. So we looked at alternative recycling, such as a transfer station. We looked at a dumpster within our town campus where people could drop off their recycling, much like they would drop off refuse at the landfill. And we also looked at potential subscription services. So we looked at a variety of different things, but nothing has been decided yet. And one of our other selectmen has a comment as well. Go ahead, Julian.
I just want to make sure we clarify the answer to your question. We originally did go out to RFP with both. And the prices came in so high, there were 4 bids. 2 were a lot lower than the others. And we eliminated 2 of them. And so we did start out with the whole ball of wax to do both recycling, because we didn't know that these prices would come in so high, because the previous contracts didn't have a big difference. And then we tried to step back a bit and do a new RFP to see what it was without recycling. So there was basically 2 stages in there. What Ms. Hart says is absolutely correct in the second part. We were not intending to get rid of recycling, but we saw the price difference. But it's a learning experience. The market changed so much that it wasn't the same as doing a contract 5 years ago.
Does that answer your question, sir? Does that answer your question?
Yes, That's a good clarification. Thank you, Julian. So it sounds to me, Chairman Hart, it sounds to me like this recycling is a big cost driver, given your efforts to try to find a better price. I would also, in sympathy with Ryan, I tend to agree with him. I would also consider getting bids with no recycling. If that's going to be a considerable cost driver, why wouldn't we just have everything picked up at the curb, no recycling? You know, I don't know if that's been considered, but anyway, I want to be brief. How many bidders did we have for the current RFP? How much competition was there?
The one that we sent out for with trash and recycling, there were 4 bids returned back in August. When we resent out the second RFP in December, only 2 bidders came back. And we did try to do this without a recycling component and a different way to recycle, and hence you see this public hearing, because there was a public outcry to quote, get rid of recycling, and that's why we're here tonight. So that we did explore that, but apparently that was not a viable option for a number of our taxpayers.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that the taxpayers are well aware of what the additional cost would be for them to maintain this recycling, and I hope everybody's willing to pay for it out of their pocketbook. But anyway, my last question, I promise, is there's a lot of talk in your presentation about tonnage. Is this tonnage, are these estimates of tonnage, or are they based on any actual tonnage? And second, part B, will the chosen contractor, will we be paying him for actual tonnage or for our estimated tonnage that we have in the contract, which obviously could be that if our estimate is way off or way high, then we really make the contractor happy with additional payments for work that he doesn't have to do.
Okay, so I can answer you fairly quickly. We have almost 10 years worth of data indicating how much trash and how much recycling we have done in tonnage. And it appears to be extremely consistent year after year after year. And so we based our estimates on the consistency of approximately 3,500 tons of trash and approximately 700 tons of recycling. We only pay for the actual tonnage. We don't pay for estimates. So if it's less or more, we're going to pay the difference.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. That would have been great to see in your presentation, the growth in tonnage or the consistency, but I'd certainly take your word for it. That's it for me. Thanks very much, everybody.
All right, you have a good night, sir. Thank you for chiming in.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just brought on Lynn Jeffries.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you spell your last name and give us your address, please, Lynn?
Sure, it's Lynn Jeffries, Jeffries, 12 Ridgewood Road. My question is, we've talked just recently about the tonnage. If we didn't do recycling, that tonnage would be added to the cost of what we're paying for trash.
Correct.
And, are we paying more per tonnage for recycling? I thought we paid more per tonnage for trash.
Actually, no, ma'am. We have, at this current rate at our newest RFP, the rate, the per ton charge for recycling is approximately $123 per ton, but the trash rate per ton is approximately $84. And there's a 4% escalation clause every single year, so every year that would go up. So we actually pay more for recycling than we do for trash with respect for tonnage.
All right, I appreciate the answer that clarifies. However, I am still very much in favor of recycling. I think it's the smart thing to do. I think it's a thing we're teaching our kids. You don't just grab things and then throw them out the window of the car. I think if you just have to bite the bullet sometimes and do what's right, not what's easy.
Excellent point. Thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. And did you have anything else to say before we go to the next person?
No, I'm fine.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Okay, next we have Pete Desjardins. or Desjardins. Pete, are you with
Desjardins?
us?
Can he hear? Peter, can you hear us?
Pete Desjardins?
Okay, yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you spell your last name and give us your address, sir?
Okay, it's Desjardins, Desjardins, at 8 Sunrise Terrace. And I'll be brief, I just think it's really important, the example we set for our future generations, to do the right thing for our planet and not give up on recycling no matter what the cost.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Next, I'm going to bring on Tom Alberti. Tom, can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Tom, can you just spell your last name and give us your address, please?
Sure. Last name
Thank
is
you.
Alberti, A-L-B as in boy, E-R-T-I, and my address is 2 Ridgewood Road. So I know there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work and have a good understanding of all the ins and outs. I mean, some of the things I've seen about tonnage seems to say that this is a reflection of what kind of participation we have in the town. But I think if you use your eyeballs and you drive around town, the number of households that participate in curbside recycling now, I would estimate is upwards of 60%, maybe 70%. I could be wrong, but like I said, that's just my eyeball seeing that. I'm a family of 4. We have 2 teenage daughters. We put out 2 large barrels of trash, and then every other week, 2 very large barrels of recycling along, a lot of times with a lot of boxes. And as someone else mentioned, you know, right now people are using Amazon, having a lot of products shipped, so you're going to see that cardboard continue to increase. And my concern is that if we go to a transfer station, number one, you'll see less participation. People will be more reluctant to get in the car and tote all that recyclables along. But I am well aware that the landscape has changed for recycling, that we do not have the same avenues to move our recyclables, and therefore the cost is going up. And I'm also very fiscally conservative. I believe in cutting taxes and spending responsibly, but I do approve of the spending on this because I believe in it. I believe in it as a household that utilizes recycling. I do believe in the idea of supporting recycling as well for the environment. And I think it is a cost that, most families would be willing to spend. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom. You have a good night.
Okay. The next one, she has her hand raised, but for some reason, I don't know if she's on a different type of device, but it's not allowing me to put her on as a panelist.
Okay.
However, it's Patricia Wicks, and she did comment in text, and I just
Okay.
want to relay her comments.
Thank you.
That she's, let me just pull that up here. She put in to please continue town-wide curbside recycling. I apologize for not being able to bring her on, but...
Don't even worry about it. Can you give us an estimate of how many more people are waiting to come on to comment?
I have 13 attendees, but Mrs. Wicks is the last one who has her hand raised. So if anyone else online with us right now would like to speak, they should probably raise their hand.
Do so now, yes, because if there's no other person that wishes to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Hello,
Yes, hi, who's this?
this is Richard Perrin. I apologize for my problems earlier. You called me first thing, and we weren't able to get on very quickly. Our
That's
attention
okay,
was
sir.
turned with
Could you just, before
Some
you
of our
speak,
comments about-
sir, before you
sorry.
speak, could you spell your last name and give us your address, please, before you speak?
Last name is Perrin, P-E-R-R-I-N, Richard. I'm at 10 Mayray Avenue. Some of the comments that were earlier have been addressed, so I don't have to do that. I do want to make a point that I do support the curbside service, as do others. The only thing that we didn't like about it is when trash is left on the ground, that they don't empty the bin completely or don't pick up if stuff gets to the ground. And my main concern was they take the bin and they whip it in the air and they don't place it down on the ground. They throw it. And we've already replaced a couple of bins. So that was my main concern. But agreeing with everybody, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. But that is the primary reason we are going with automated services so that we don't have, human beings throwing stuff around like crazy monkeys.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, sir. You have a good night.
You too.
If there's no one else that wishes to speak, I think we got the message loud and clear. Go ahead, Greg.
Madam Chair, can we offer to these people who are listening, if they'd like to, they can send an email message to Beth?
Yep,
that we could,
that's a
that we
great
could
idea.
consider? Thank you.
Great idea, yeah. I'm sorry, I should have noticed that. Yeah, if anybody that's listening that wasn't able to speak tonight would like to send Beth an email, we'd be happy to read the rest of those emails at our next board meeting, if you'd like to do that. And Jim has one more comment, and I'm going to limit you to 2 minutes, and then I'm going to end the public hearing. Talk fast.
Okay, it's very brief. I just wanted to clarify about the citizens petition. Peter mentioned it. What our intention is, and the way you described it is accurate, we would propose adding to the operating budget in the early part of the deliberative session. If that passes, we would bring up the citizens petition and then amend that to 0, so you wouldn't have to worry about voting for that. If it doesn't pass in the operating budget, we would amend the citizens petition down to $90,000. That's our intention. So everybody knows, I'm showing our hand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Jim.
All right, thanks, Jim. All right, so if there's no other comments, I really do want to thank everybody. And as I think Peter said, even though it was ugly, some really good things came out of this. It got people aware, and I truly do hope that people will step up to the plate and run for office. That is the quintessential definition of democracy in action. It's people getting together to solve problems. So thank you all very much for contributing to all of this. And obviously, the board will take all of these comments under advisement. And so if there's no more further comments, I'm going to end the public hearing at 7:27. And Julian, did you want to make a comment before we close out the public hearing? Go ahead.
Before, well, the part about joining or volunteering for elective office, piñatas like company.
Yeah. All right. So thank you all, everyone, and have a good night. Stay warm. And I'm going to go on to the next agenda item. And before we do that, I believe Jay has a motion on the floor that he would like to put on for the board to consider.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion to reestablish the track committee.
Second the motion.
Okay. Did you want to comment about that at all?
About that? No, I'm all for it.
Okay. So if there's no discussion,
Can I just,
yeah, go ahead.
I am taking letters of interest until February 1st, which is a week.
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I've already received a few, but if anyone is out there that is interested, please email me at jderoche@plaistow.com. It's JDEROCHE. And then we will bring those letters to the board for potential appointments. I'm hoping for February 8th. So that's the timeline I've set forward. So
Okay, yeah.
just wanted to make the motion to reestablish that committee.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that the track committee sort of fell apart last year, so I think it's appropriate for fresh blood and a fresh new start with a new track committee. So if there's no further discussion on this, I will take a roll call vote on this. All those in favor?
No.
Ms. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Talion?
Yes.
Mr. Kishka?
Yes.
Mr. Blen?
Yes.
Mr. DeRoche?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries 5-0-0. All right, so you're on your way, Jay. Next item on our agenda is Plaistow School Choice Week proclamation. I received a notice in my email that apparently this week from January 24th to the 30th is School Choice Week, and so I have been asked to read a proclamation, which I will do so right now, so bear with me. Whereas all children in Plaistow should have access to the highest quality education possible, and whereas Plaistow recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in Plaistow to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Plaistow, and whereas Plaistow is home to a multitude of high-quality public and non-public schools from which parents can choose for their children, in addition to families who educate their children at home. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas Plaistow has many high-quality teaching professionals in all types of school settings who are committed to educating our children, and whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options, I therefore, Francine Hart, do hereby recognize January 24th through January 30th, 2021 as Plaistow School Choice Week, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. So, next item on the agenda is Greg Talent is going to give us a presentation that will prepare all of our taxpayers and voters for deliberative session by providing some really great information that probably all of you should pay attention to and take a look at. So without further ado, Greg, take it away.
Can I just make a suggestion? Yeah, next time you put an agenda, just give it like what it's going to be about.
Oh, all right. Okay. Good point.
Okay. No problem.
I'm just going to change this to duplicate.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chair. This little analysis I did based on data that we have in our town reports. I kind of go through it fairly quickly, but I did want to give you, there we go.
Can you speak closer to the microphone
Sure.
too, please? Yeah, thank you.
It's not working. I can't advance. There we go. Okay. Okay. So this presentation concludes on the analysis that I did for this. It talks about where the data came from, the date ranges we used to segment the data, and then a couple of chart types, fairly simple. And then we looked at both the financials as well as the progress of projects within the town. And then I came up with two very simple analysis conclusions, which I'll cover with you for your consideration. And then I will not go into the summary and the detail charts, but all that has been made available to all the selectmen. Okay, so I looked at the warrant and budget appropriations for the time period 2014 to 2017 and 2018 through 2021. The data was sourced from MS7 and MS737, and those are effectively the same report, just the MS7 occurred first, and then now we are using something called the MS737. I also looked at the voter ballots published in the town report to be able to get a clear sense of what warrants were actually passed, what budgets were passed, so that we could have data that was correct. The warrant information was sourced from the information from the town reports. The 2021 warrant information had to be estimated, basically with the pending warrant articles when we first created this analysis that were pending, and now I've just modified this so that it shows just those warrant articles that were voted and recommended to be put on the ballot. Additionally, revenue estimates for the town were given to me for this current year by Greg Kobe, the financial director, so we come up with an estimate for that, and I'll mention that. So we have a little tool, little Excel tool, allow us to generate the data as well as the individual graphs to produce this, and this is made available to anybody who really wants it. I offered it to the town elected officials, board, or committee members, but anybody who is wishing a copy of this, I'll be happy to email one.
Excuse me, could I just interrupt you, Greg? Could that be put on the town website?
It could, yes.
Okay, so maybe we should do that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, can you give us some of the numbers? Because I don't think anybody can read that.
Oh, yes, that was just, that was
Right.
attempted to show, yep. We will do that. Okay, so the two time periods, 2014, 2017, the current town manager that was managing that budget was Sean Fitzgerald. And 2018 to 2021, Mark Pearson was the current town manager. Okay, so we've already mentioned the MS7 and MS37 reports were produced before the deliberative session that we'll be having very soon. So changes in the BudCom recommended amounts could occur, and we hopefully we'll get it as close as we possibly can before the deliberative session. The 2021 tax rate will not be available until the end of 2021, so only 3 years of tax rates could be compared between 2018 and 2020. Okay. So these are all the items that we looked at and we provided data for. Operating budget, which is just the budget itself. Special and individual warrant articles. Some articles, depending on their financial purposes, are called special and some are called individual. Basically, we looked at all those warrant articles. And then we looked at a category called past warrants, which means the ones that actually were voted on and had enough votes to pass and come into being. The total appropriation includes all of the operating budget plus the past warrants, and that's why that's important. So that tells you the total spending for that particular town. And the revenue, the estimated revenue and credits, these are funds that come into the town primarily through town clerk services and building and inspection services. And there are some other miscellaneous things that come into the revenue, but those are the primary ones. Okay? On far as the MS1 data, the total tax rate includes both school, town, and county. The municipal tax rate is just the town rate. And so that's really the only rate controllable by the town manager. He has no effect on the school or the county. All right, so the chart design, real simple. We basically provide the monetary values in dollars. A growth rate is showed as a percentage between each year, so either increase or decrease. And then we draw a red line across, or let Excel do that, that determines a trend line. And then from that, we can produce an average growth rate per year. Okay. The summary chart design, a little bit simpler, is basically taking those rates, those growth rates, and showing them on a chart of a percentage. So obviously the smallest average growth rate is preferred. The smaller the number, the better. Okay. Within both of these time frames, we tried to itemize all the major development projects. I went to multiple sources to try to make sure this was correct. And so we can see the ones that were done in the 2014 to 2017 time period, as well as the 2018-2021. Okay? All right, so the conclusions. These are the two primary conclusions I could come up with by just based on the data. The last 4 years, 2018 to 2021, total town expenditures, that means operating budget plus warrants, have grown at a significantly smaller rate than the previous 4 years, 2014 to 2017. And again, that's just looking at the charts and what the data is telling us. In the same time period, 2018 to 2021, the number of town projects for road improvement, new town facilities, safety projects, and new town services greatly exceeds both expectations and any similar effort in the previous date range, 2014 to 2017. All right, so this is a little bit bigger. Hope, can you see those?
Yes.
So I'm looking at 4 different categories. So we have the average growth in total appropriations. That means budget plus the warrants. So we are looking at, and I'll show you one of the detail charts in just a moment, but this is basically showing the average growth. So it grew in the current time period, 2018-2021, 0.8%. Whereas in the 2014-2017, it grew at 19%. So you can see the other charts. One was average growth in the operating budget, so that does not look at warrants, it looks at just the operating budget. And then down below, you'll see the average growth in tax rate, and here we are talking about the total tax rate, so that's school, county, and municipal, or town. And then finally, the average growth rate in just the municipal tax rate by date range, so minus 7.6. It's actually been falling compared to minus 0.1%.
So, Greg, could I just interrupt you? And it's a little hard for people to see, and I'm having a little trouble seeing it. So could you explain to the people who are watching and listening that orange or red, whatever they're seeing, that color, that is a 2014 to 2017 numbers, as opposed to the green, which is since Mark came on board as a town manager?
It's not meant to be a good or a bad thing. It's basically, just as you said, the legend right below the individual chart is just showing you red for 2014 to 2017 and green for 2018, 2021. And after I looked at this quite a while, I probably should have changed those to two other neutral colors because it does gives the impression that one is good or one is bad. And this is not the intent at all. This is look to see what our average growth rate is in these categories. Okay? So here's an example. I'll give you two here. So we're basically taking 4 years, and in this case, we're looking at total appropriation. I put a little note there because, to be fair, this also included $8.5 million for the safety complex warrant. So it obviously will exaggerate that particular year. But there you can see 2014 through 2017, total appropriation. You can see the trend line, that red line, and that represents a 19% growth. Does the safety complex affect that? Absolutely it does, okay? So here's another one, similar data. So it's total appropriation for the 2018-2021, and basically the amount is more flat. We're talking about a growth rate of 0.8%, so it's almost a flat rate there, okay? So these are similar, so I won't spend a lot of time on these. This is the operating budget for the previous years, and then for the most recent years, this is the total appropriation for just operating budget alone and not any warrants. And then finally, if we look at the tax rate, this is the total tax rate. So this rate has been dropping minus 1.4% from the years 2014 to 2017. So that includes the total tax that we are paying. And then if we look at the 2018 to 2020, because we only have 3 years, I only could graph 3 years to be fair, and that was actually falling, the trend line is falling at a growth of minus 5.9%. Right? So that represents total tax rate. And then if we look at the municipal tax rate, this is just for the town rate. And so we can see here we're around $6 for the first 2 years, and then about $5.50, and then eventually it jumps up again to about $6. So that has an average growth of minus 0.1%. So again, pretty flat. And then the municipal tax rate for the last 3 years has been dropping by minus 7.6%, okay? And that's it. So I'll make this available on the town website, and if anybody wishes a copy of either the PowerPoint slides or the Excel data with the spreadsheet, I'll be more than happy to offer that to anybody who would like to take a look at it. My intent was to provide data and then allow people to make their own analysis. Thank you.
I really want to thank you personally for the tremendous amount of effort and work you put into that. That was a huge amount of research, and you did a beautiful job just kind of categorizing it and tabling it in these charts, so it's very easy to see that even though we think that, our taxes are going up, which they are, we are managing our taxes and our tax rate in a very prudent way. And we also have to consider the fact that our homes are worth significantly more than they were 5 years ago. So when I look at this data, my personal feeling is, yes, we are managing our town very well. We're managing our tax rate, and we're able to finish a lot of projects that have been kind of languishing in the town. So kudos to you, the board, and also to our town manager and our finance director, who is working very, very hard to make sure that that happens. So thank you for your effort, Greg. We really appreciate it. Go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, I guess I'll thank the town manager again, because I think I've seen a lot of this presentation before.
Right.
From the
I made it
town
available
manager.
to you. Yep.
So I don't remember how far back that was, but.
Yeah, it was a little while ago, but you did a huge amount of research for that. So thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions on the presentation from the board at all before we go to the next item on the agenda? Okay, so next item on the agenda is reconsideration of trash RFP. And John, hopefully you're still with us. While you were in sunny Aruba, we were having some discussions with regards to moving forward on trash proposals, et cetera, and our board was deadlocked, so I'm really happy that you're with us. So I'm going to take a comment from Julian, and then I believe Greg has a motion to put on the floor, so go ahead, Julian.
I have a motion to put on the floor. I motion that we choose Casella for Plaistow solid waste disposal, and furthermore, to direct only the town manager and assistant town manager negotiate a contract for curbside normal trash and recycling using cart as a method of transfer for both.
Okay, well, I think Greg had a very similar motion on the floor.
I made it.
And, yep, go
excuse me?
ahead, go ahead.
Can I ask Julian? Julian, can I just read mine, and then maybe we just combine the last piece of mine to what you have? Because what you have is what I have in the first part.
Well,
So, Mike, can I just read it, and then, is that okay?
Well, it's not a competition or an election
It's not a
between two votes.
competition,
I
right.
put a motion on the floor. It's either seconded or it's not.
All right, does anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so with further discussion, go ahead, Greg.
Okay, so my discussion is that we are tying the hands of our town manager if we are assuming that he is only going to negotiate with Casella. And because of that, I think that we need to be able to direct our town manager to negotiate a solid waste agreement with the Casella Resource Solutions as per their current proposal as a starting point, and/or with other waste management companies to meet the solid waste removal needs of the town. So again, I don't have a problem with Julian's motion. I just think that we need to amend what he has to give our town manager a little bit more flexibility. So I would like to make an amendment to Julian's motion to include what I just read.
Wait a minute, did you get all of that, Beth? Okay, all right, go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, I don't think what I said ties the town manager's hands at all. I'd even be willing to remove the Casella if he truly believes that it should go back to RFP.
Mm-hmm. And
I would even be willing to remove the Casella if the town manager thinks that's the best method.
And I believe that was the intent of Greg's motion, was to not, exactly what you said, was to not tie the town manager's hands by limiting him to a particular vendor. So I would have a tendency to agree with that. And if you're, excuse me, I'm speaking. If you would please just let me finish speaking, I would be happy to let you talk back again. So by eliminating a specific vendor, that gives our town manager more flexibility to be able to go out to do RFPs for both components or not, but it doesn't tie his hands in limiting him to a vendor. So go ahead.
Can we ask for a second first? Can
We
ask for a-
did. I thought we did. Yeah, Jay seconded it.
Oh, okay.
No, I seconded Julian.
Oh, you seconded Julian's. I apologize. I'll second your motion.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead, Julian.
I say I'd be willing to remove just the Casella,
Okay.
because I was going to bring that up anyway.
Okay, all right. So I guess we're sort
As
of.
long as the town manager felt that was in the best interest, because he's the one going to do the negotiating.
Mhm.
I would like to hear from him.
Okay, Mark, are you there with us?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the motion? How would you like us to handle that to give you the greatest flexibility that we can?
if you don't name a particular vendor and allow me to negotiate with the two proposers or anybody else, that would be better for the town and give me more ability to negotiate a better price for the town.
Okay, so go ahead, Greg.
Madam Chair, I discussed this with Mark this afternoon, and purposely for that particular reason. And when I talked with him this afternoon, I showed him the motion. He said, that's fine. Basically, well, it gives, we can take what Casella has provided us, but it does not bind us in any way. And if he needs to pull in another vendor to either, do a different part of the contract, then we give them the flexibility to do that. So we have an amendment on the floor, and it's been seconded. It should come up for a vote.
Okay, so I would like to call for a vote of this motion as amended. Could you do a roll call vote for us, Beth?
I want a clarification on the amendment, because we said a lot of things. It just means we're going to remove the restriction on that using only Casella.
We could use, right.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Okay.
Hold on. Can you
ahead.
read what
Sure.
you want to amend
Yep.
it to? I want to hear it.
To direct the town manager to negotiate a solid waste removal agreement with the Casella Resource Solution as per their current proposal as a starting point, and/or with other waste management companies to meet the solid waste removal needs of the town.
And can I ask Julian to read his? I just
Mine
need
is,
to.
mine specifies that we will do trash and recycling using the cart method.
Can you read yours?
I'll read
please?
mine. I motioned that we choose Casella, which I can take that part out. And furthermore, to direct only the town manager and assistant town manager to negotiate a contract for curbside normal trash and recycling using cart as the method for transfer for both. So I'm in agreement to just remove the part of a particular vendor. I'd say choose any vendor for Plaistow's solid waste, and I'd be fine with it.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Jay. Is your sticking point the quote solid waste versus trash and recycling because solid waste encompasses both? Is that what your sticking point was?
Well, I like the verbiage of the curbside recycling within the motion somewhere,
What about the cart issue? Is that,
as well as the cart. We've already purchased the cart,
Well-
so we're already bound to that, aren't we?
right, so I'm not sure if that needs to be in the motion.
Well, we haven't purchased cart for recycling, so.
No, but we've already
We would need
decided
to.
that it was an
Well,
automated
The
service.
town manager could negotiate a good purchase, or rent-to-purchase program as well, or we can go with the way we did the original cart.
Okay.
So
Well-
I would leave that open to the town manager to negotiate the best deal that he can get.
All right, and I would also want to take his recommendation with respect to the motion that actually he wrote out, because that gives him the most flexibility. Are you not comfortable with solid waste removal, Jay? Do you want us to just put solid waste removal and/or recycling? I mean, because that encompasses both, and if you're not comfortable with it, I guess we could change the wording of that, but Mark was the one that actually wrote out that motion. So if that's what he's comfortable with and he's comfortable in negotiating, I think we should defer to his expertise on that, because we definitely don't want to tie his hands and restrict him from doing the best job that he can do for the town.
Madam Chairman, can I say a
Yes.
couple words on that?
Absolutely, sir, go ahead.
If the language is more specific to say, the trash and recycling and cart and all that, that's fine.
Okay.
You can tell me what you want me to do. You can, more is
Right.
better with this motion. And I would just say this, I just don't like the word only that Selectman Kieska has proposed, only because it could be the assistant town manager, myself, and it could be Attorney Kalman. So I just didn't want only to be there.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want somebody to come back and say that it's only the town manager and assistant town manager.
All right, so let me go back to Greg's motion, and would you gentlemen be okay if instead of solid waste, we struck that out and put trash collection, curbside recycling with automated carts. Would you all be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, Jay?
I do like Julian's motion, but just taking out the Casella portion of it, because it does specify trash, curbside
Well,
recycling.
we can do that
Yeah.
there.
And I would add the attorney in there because I see the town manager's point. But
Go ahead.
basically, you're just saying, you're taking a motion on the floor, you're trashing it, and putting another motion in its place because you don't particularly like it.
No, it's being amended, and that's what
Yeah,
we're trying to do right now.
No,
Go
you're not
ahead.
amending it, you're totally redoing it.
Go ahead, Greg.
Can I speak?
Yep.
Not at all, Julian, not at all. I discussed this with Mark. I basically wanted to give him the most freedom, and I did use the term solid waste removal because I know that it includes both recycling and trash pickup. And I wanted to give him as much flexibility as he possibly could have to be able to do this. And by directing him to negotiate, he can use whoever he wants to. We're not limiting who he needs to use to do this. We have had discussion with this. We've had a second for it. I think we should just vote on this amendment.
All right, can you read it again as amended, please?
To direct the town manager to negotiate a solid waste removal agreement with Casella Resource Solutions as per their current proposal as a starting point and/or with other waste management companies to meet the solid waste removal needs of the town.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to take a roll call vote on this. Go ahead, Beth.
Ms. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Italian?
Yes.
Mr. Kishka?
I have to vote no, it doesn't say recycling in it.
Mr. Blinn?
I feel like Julian, I want to hear it say recycling, so I'll say no.
Mr. DeRoche?
Yeah, I'll go no as well.
So do you want to re-amend the motion to include, as I said, trash and recycling and cart pickup or automated cart pickup? Did you want to amend it to that?
Let's amend Julian's motion to include that.
Well, he already has it in there.
No, he doesn't. So if Jay wants to make a motion amendment, he can amend the wording based on that.
Point of order.
He has, let me finish. We voted this down. So if you want to, this is gone, and now we have Julian's motion is now currently on the floor. So if John or Jay or Julian wants to amend it, they can absolutely amend it. We can vote on that.
I would like to amend my motion.
Okay, can you read it?
I'll read it. I motion that we choose a vendor
Okay.
for Plaistow solid waste disposal and direct the town manager and assistant town manager to negotiate a contract for curbside normal trash recycling using cart as the method of transfer for both.
Okay.
So it takes out the only,
Okay.
and it directs the town manager, and it does not provide a particular vendor.
Okay,
I think it does not tie his hands.
Okay, so could I also suggest that you may add, as Mark suggested, and town attorney?
Well, yes, I didn't say only, so Mark has the option.
All right, so
I
read
took
it
out
one
the- I
more
took out
time.
the only, which does not tie his
Okay.
hands. He
I'll
can bring in his
second
attorney or whatever.
Julian's amendment.
Okay, all right, so you'll second that motion as amended, or just to second the
I'll
motion?
second the
Okay.
amendment, yep.
All right, if there's no more further discussion, I'll take a roll call vote on that one, please.
Ms. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Italian?
Yes.
Mr. Kishka?
Yes.
Mr. Blinn?
Yes.
Mr. DeRoche?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's good. Okay, so at least we got that out of the way, and that motion carries 5-0-0. Our next item on the agenda is preparing for a deliberative session. So I think I've had an opportunity to speak with some of you with regards to it. Go ahead, Jay.
I'm sorry, just now that we've voted on that, so what are the next steps? I'd like to, is Mark going to start the process with one of the two vendors?
What I had planned to do is provide him with the latest RFP from Casella and Waste Management, because I don't believe he actually has that. I think only the board got that. I will also provide him with any contracts and negotiations that I've done so far with Casella, so that he can look at all of the information that he has, and then he needs to move forward from there. So I'll give him the information that I have and hand it off to him, and then obviously he will take that and run with it. Okay, go ahead, Julian.
You said the last RFP, the previous RFPs would be probably very useful to him as well.
Well, I can
The
give him
first
that,
four.
too.
The first four would be useful to him because
Okay.
some had better numbers.
Yep, I'll give him all that stuff, because I can't wait to get rid of my paperwork.
Well, I don't blame you. It was a lot of confusing information.
Right, okay, so are you guys all set? Are you comfortable with that?
And I guess from, and I don't know if Mark can answer this now, but when can we expect maybe an update in the next week and a half, 2 weeks? By the 8th of February? I'm just looking for some type of time frame, I guess.
I would say no. You're going to be talking about this at deliberative. That's a factor. And then deciding, whatever is decided on the deliberative session or at the deliberative session has to go before the voters in March.
Yep.
So in good faith, I'm going to bring back whatever I have at any point in time to the board, and the board's going to ultimately decide. I may do the negotiations, but I'm not going to be signing the contract until the board reviews it and then directs me to sign it. So I think we're sort of in a holding pattern to see what happens in March for the voting, because what happens if the money proposed is not funded? The board shouldn't be signing a contract until you know you have the money to sign the contract.
Yeah.
No,
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, because it's a legislative body that decides what they're going to spend for this. So that makes perfect sense. Go ahead, Julian.
I just want to make 5 small, short points. I just want to read them off so it might help the town manager as he starts the process.
Go ahead.
You could disagree with something.
No, go
I
ahead,
say.
go ahead, just go ahead.
I think some of the decisions about to be made, whether the cart for the recycle should be purchased from our current supplier or leased with option to buy. Size of the recycling carts would have to be determined. Only picking up trash and recycle in approved town carts has to be discussed. Can residents that have a lot of contamination be identified some way so that we can educate them that they're putting a lot of contaminants in there? So it'll solve one of the problems, and trash committee can talk about this. I think if they have a method of doing it, because I heard that some of these automated things have cameras, and when they're dumping them, they can tell if there's contamination right away. And then we could notify the residents and identify, well, these are the only things you should be putting in there.
Good
No
point.
penalty, just education.
Yep.
And also we need some recommendations going forward, because we haven't done this before, on what's the proper initial distribution of carts to our residents, because I have no clue how that gets done, because that could be tough. So I think the vendor that we choose may have some comments to how we get it started.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm sure lots of food for thought. Okay, so if we're done with that portion.
Thank you for humoring me.
No, that's fine.
See what's the thought process
And you
is
should
and what's
be
coming
seeing
down the
what's
road.
coming forward. Yes, and some of those points that Julian made are probably going to have to be made by the board and not necessarily by Mark, but if he keeps that in mind, you guys will discuss it and move forward with your decisions. Okay, so deliberative session. As you know, we are holding our deliberative session at the Public Works Garage. It is scheduled for 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would ask respectfully if the selectmen could kindly be there between 8:30 and 8:45 at the latest. You're going to have to get screened. And you're going to have your paperwork, and I'd like you to have a few minutes to get yourself settled in to make sure we're prepared for that. Unfortunately, John, because you are in quarantine, you will not be allowed to attend, and nor will you be allowed to vote, because it's either in person or all virtual. So you could probably watch us on TV, but you're not going to be able to participate, and I'm really sorry that you're not going to be able to do that. We also discussed the possibility of rearranging some of the warrant articles. The bond needs to be done first. Operating budget needs to be done second. And we did discuss with our town moderator moving the citizens petition up right after the operating budget, because I believe most people are going to be there for those three things. And then once we vote on that, that will allow people to leave, and we should be able to clear out the Public Works garage. Mark has made an effort to, I believe, and actually I probably should have you talk about this, Mark, about making arrangements for a tent and be able to accommodate all of our citizens who wish to come to deliberative. We want to speak for a few minutes on that, please? Yeah.
Sure. I met with Seacoast Tents today with the owner, Jim, and I had him give me a price to add on a 60-foot by 40-foot tent at the salt shed end of the garage, which would, in effect, with the doors open, extend the room bigger to allow more people. It would come with some heaters because we expect cold weather. And I've talked to Dean about possibly putting some additional equipment to assist people to hear and to see what's going on, but that would be, they would be included in the room to speak or to participate. That cost is going to be approximately $4,000. You know, we're trying to plan for something that we just don't know how many people are going to show up. One of the moving targets is how many people are going to show up and how many seats are we going to have for people. Our calculation is somewhere between 60 and 80 with all the proper spacing in the garage, not the tent. And then that could change if you have some seating that has double seats because, you know, two people travel together or from the same household. That could increase our capacity to more the 80 to 90 range. And then the additional space, which would be 2,400 square feet, could accommodate, say, another 30 or 40 people. So, you know, we don't know if there's going to be more than 100 people showing up or less than 100. I have not signed a contract with Seacoast. I went ahead and got this estimate for the board tonight, and it's really up to you to tell me if you want me to move forward with that or not. The Public Works people are standing by to move some cement ballasts down so the tent can be anchored to the ballast without driving in those metal pins into the new parking lot.
Good,
That's what it would cost. All you have to do is give me a consensus to move forward, and we're going to spend $4,000 to essentially make our deliberative session successful. If you don't do that, you're limited to just the garage, and you're taking the risk that the garage will be too small for the amount of people showing up. So this is the pleasure of the board.
All right. Go ahead, Greg.
So one thing we need to add is that we also have the mezzanine for people who are general public and not necessarily town voting members. So that adds a little bit more space. I think if we don't do this, we basically risk to push this thing out and lose interest in the deliberative session and also force Ms. Hart to continue.
That's the primary reason I want you guys to do this, yes.
I think I really applaud Mark and Francine and jumping on this. The governor sent out a special emergency order and basically gave the ability to the Board of Selectmen to delay the deliberative session if necessary. And I think that what was expressed by our moderator, that we basically have addressed that, and I think we feel, at least I feel comfortable, that we can continue with this and put on a good deliberative session for everybody who wants to attend.
Go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, I have a question about your use of the mezzanine. You mean up in the only, yep. I would not want my citizens going up there on those steps and have a possibility of them getting injured. Because not everybody's good at steps like that.
The people that are being relegated to the mezzanine are non-voting people that are allowed to speak. For example, Mark, who lives in Salem, Greg Colby, who lives in Bow. Those are people that need to be part and present of our deliberative session, but they are not voting members of the public. There's also availability down in the conference room and in different offices down there too. So that would be their choice, whether to go up there or not, but we're trying to spread out.
I'm concerned for their safety as well,
Yep,
so.
yep, I agree, I agree.
That's a wobbly set of steps.
Go ahead, John. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just want to add that I think we should just get the tent and set it up, and hopefully the people come, but if they don't, at least we know that we made it available and we're ready.
We'll know next time.
Right. And you know, postponing this would do a whole cascade of very negative effects with respect to being able to put out warrants and pay our bills and get projects going. So I agree with John. I think we should move forward with the deliberative session with the tent. Do I hear any more comments? Go ahead, Jay.
Just a question. So when this was discussed, was the high school even considered as a potential option? And I don't know what they charge for, use of that. I know it's kind of last minute, but.
It is last minute.
Yeah.
It is last minute.
I understand that, but I'm just, was this even considered as an option due to the space constraints that just came up recently? So I know the last time I asked this, I was told around 100 people could fit in there. That number has come down, obviously, so I'm not anticipating thousands of people to show up to deliberative session. I'm just, was that a consideration?
For me personally, I think from our last go-around with trying to find a facility, if you recall in our September voting, we had reached out to the school and we were told that we were not going to be able to use it because of COVID and the ability of them to be able to sanitize and keep their students and faculty safe. So I think in my personal opinion is we looked for Plan B. And the Public Works Garage was specifically built for multi-uses. And so this is a perfect opportunity for us to showcase those versatile places in which we can use that Public Works Garage. So, it was really not considered. And I would be concerned about, the school district being able to sanitize and take care of the kids and the faculty. I'm sure the faculty is probably breathing a sigh of relief that they did not have to worry about a possible contamination, but no, it was not considered.
They're having their deliberative session on the 6th at the gym, so I was just wondering if that was even considered.
No,
if it's, because I know when we've had it at Pollard, doesn't the town pay to clean up after the fact and stuff? So I'm sure it's far less than $4,000 for a tent, but I know we're in this situation and we have to make it work, and I'm just asking the question.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's
thank you.
okay. Go ahead, Greg.
So there's only one comment I would add to this discussion is that we have made significant investments to provide video and audio. They have all been installed, they've been tested. We basically would not have done this had we not known, we had not planned to do the deliberative session there. So I think we need to make use of that investment. Maybe in the future when COVID dies down and we don't have these concerns, maybe the high school might be a possibility. But
No, I'm just, with COVID and the change in the numbers that were allowed, I was just,
Yep, no, definitely ask the question. That's fine.
checking. 'Cause,
absolutely, no.
So,
I
so
know-
John, did you have,
To 60 that's a big jump, so.
it is. Did you have a comment, John?
No, that was my only comment.
Okay, all right. So do we have a consensus from the board that we should move ahead with the deliberative session and include the tent and any kind of other heating devices to accommodate our citizens?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so Mark, you have a board consensus, I believe, of 500 to move forward with that. So if there's anything else that you need from us, just let us know.
Nope, that was it.
Okay, so the next thing that we do need to discuss, gentlemen, is, as you are aware, and I think, I don't know, I think, Jay, you may be the only person that is not aware of the ritual of reading out the warrants at deliberative. And it is my understanding that our moderator is going to read the warrants out, and he has requested that there's only going to be 5 people up on the dais for for social distancing. So the selectmen and the budget committee members are going to be seated in front of us. And so he requested that I put the original motion on the floor and that Max seconds the motion. And we should take turns in discussing or explaining the warrant articles. So I have to throw out to you guys, do you want to take, I think there's like 20 of them, so each of us get 5. And would you like to take a turn going down by rote, or would you like to pick the ones you want, or how would you like to handle that?
Well, I think we could just go down the way, read them. It doesn't mean you have to be the one to discuss or defend it.
Well, we have to let the moderator know who's going to
Yeah.
discuss it. So you want to just go down the...
For just reading it, just go down the
No,
list?
not to read it. The moderator's going to read the warrant.
Right?
And then one of the selectmen will explain the warrant. So do you want to just go by rote like me, Greg, you, Jay, and then just keep going around and around? Would that be the best way to do that? Or would you like to pick the ones that you want?
I think that's reasonable.
Is that reasonable? Jay, what do you think?
I think we all know which ones we know about, and when the time comes, we can just,
Well, I have to give the moderator
Oh.
the person's name to do this. That's
I
why
get
we
it.
have to do this now. So, all right, so let's, without
do we have
further...
to do that now, or we can do this during the week?
Yeah, no, we have to
Give you
do
the
it
names.
now because I have to give it to him for Saturday. So obviously, the town elections, P 2101 is self-explanatory.
Are we going through every single one of them?
I just want to very quickly, who wants to do the water service incentive program? Does anybody want to, I'll take it if you want, and then I'll have Greg, you do the operating budget unless somebody wants
Yeah,
it.
excuse me. I thought you made a point, what I thought I heard was, do we want to go in a round robin effort? And I thought there was some consensus, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So why are we going through this? Let's just go through a round robin. Does anybody else have a reason not to do that? I mean, let's move this on.
All right.
And that gives everybody the opportunity to read one and then have a little bit of time before they have to read the next one. That's just my thought. I don't
Okay.
really care which one.
I'm in agreement with that if the rest of you are. So, all right, so I will take the water service one. Greg, would you take the operating budget?
Sure.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, Julian, can you take the water department? Operating budget
I'm looking for if I get the right version of my,
P2104?
looking for my most current, all right, this is the most current one.
Okay. Jay, would you take the contingency fund?
Yep. Yep.
All right, and I'll swing back around and do the salt shed. 24-hour coverage can be Greg. Reevaluation for capital reserve is Julian. And I will send you guys emails and confirm this with you during the week, okay? And then energy deposit, Jay, could you do that one?
Yeah.
I will do the IT one.
Wait, slow it down.
Okay.
2109 was who?
P2109
I'll
is...
do it.
Yes, energy deposit, that's J. You're going to do 2108, which is the capital reserve fund for values anew. 2108.
What's going on here?
I can email it to you afterwards if you don't have the right version.
Yeah, I must have the wrong version.
All
I'm
right,
looking at,
okay.
different version.
All right, so I'm going to do the IT one. Capital, the landfill, Greg, you're going to handle that for me, please?
Okay.
Transfer to the scuba. Julie, can you do that one? That's
that one.
2112, all right. Transfer to the radio capital reserve, J. Recreation, that would be me. Let me see, 1, 2, and then citizens petition is Greg. And if there's 4 more of them that need to be, or actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more that need to be done that are not monetary. So the next one is to read.
For the citizens petition, do we even need to do a presentation on that?
Well, we have to, if it doesn't pass in the operating budget, I just want to stick him in there to do that if not. And if it gets reduced to 0.
It's done before there's motions made to it, right? People can't
Oh,
make
yeah, that's
motions
right,
on
that's
that
right, yeah,
until
you're right, so we don't need you to
it's
do that.
explained.
Okay.
No, it's read and it's explained, and then they accept amendments to it, right?
Right.
They're not going to go off and say, I want to make an amendment to to a warrant article on,
True,
P21.
that's true.
Well,
That's
and I-
true.
Come in order.
And I think in the past, when there have been citizens petition, we give the petitioner the option to get up
Right.
and speak to it, so.
Right, and that makes sense.
Basically have a very, very little minor thing that says that there were 25 citizens that proposed this. We do not attempt to explain it.
Okay.
So, you're right, Jay.
All right, so yeah, all right, so we'll leave, Greg, we'll leave you off of that. That can be
Yep.
explained by the
Yep.
petitioner. So do you want to take, Greg, you want to take the reduce the budget committee one?
Okay?
And,
Oh, I just want to make one comment about that one. And it should be made clear to the public that there are 3 positions up for election on the list downstairs. Yet, if this passes, there'll only be 2 openings. So I would assume that naturally, the one with the least number, the third person with the least number of votes would be the one taken off. I just want to make that
right,
clear.
that makes sense. That
before the
makes
election.
total sense, yep, and Greg can
That third
explain that.
position may not really be available for someone that wants to
are
get in
we-
there. Because the election has
If
3
there's 3
people.
names on the ballot,
Exactly,
and you elected all 3 of those,
right?
this motion will not go into effect until the following year. If you elect somebody for one of those 3 positions, for all 3 positions, then they have the right to serve
Yeah.
at least 1 year before you can remove it.
Right.
So just be aware of that.
These are all
And I
3-year
don't know what she has downstairs.
I don't either, I don't
Yeah.
either.
Okay.
No, I've seen the.
They're all 3-year
I've
positions,
seen the warrant, and there's 3 open positions.
There is,
so-
all right, all right.
and they're all 3-year.
Okay, and the other issue too is, this may not pass, I don't think it won't pass, but if it doesn't pass, you will need that third opening.
Right.
So, all right, and so, Julian, can you take the discontinue acquisition of land, capital reserve fund?
Well, that's an easy one, sure.
Yep, and then, Jay, if you could take the aggregation of electric customers.
Sure.
And I will take the Heritage Commission, and Greg, if you could do the resolution for the nonpartisan redistricting, that would be great.
No problem.
So the last piece of this, too, is Greg has put in your folder, there were a couple of motions to amend the operating budget. I think at our last discussion, and John, you weren't here for this, but the board unanimously did not approve the operating budget.
Not recommend. Did not recommend.
Did not recommend it, okay. Because we felt, I think we all felt that it was, some of the departments were underfunded. And so there's 3 departments here that I would like to ask if any of you would like to.
Just one moment. John, did you receive that? I sent it to you via email this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Got it, okay. So there's 2021 budget motions for deliberative session. There's 3 motions here that Greg was kind enough to put out. Can I ask any one of you if you would be willing to put a motion on the floor for the first one, the legal department, to increase that legal budget by $6,000? Would anyone like to take that?
I'll take it.
You'll take it? All right, Greg. Okay, the second one is the planning department. And as you recall, we discussed, there was an addition of $5,054 to pay for salary increases for that department for a couple of the workers. So I'll take that one if you guys, unless someone else wants to take that one. But I'll take that one. And then the last one is a motion on the floor for increasing the government buildings budget by $16,465 to accommodate the utility bills, which were not kind of being added into there. So would anyone like to do that one? Julian?
No.
Jay, do you want to do it?
Just reading, hold on.
Oh,
All right. What, I'm sorry, what?
no, it's okay, Jay took it.
I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
He said he doesn't want to do it.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
You'll do it? Okay, thank you, Jay. All right, okay. So now that that's all settled, I will email you guys and confirm.
In light of this, I was told by Jim Peck that he was going to include the difference in the BOS solid waste removal budget from the budget the budget committee's number. And the difference there primarily will basically pay for the hazardous waste drives. So I was told that that was going to be part of his proposal. I was a little bit surprised that that was not. And so that means that we are going to not be able to do hazardous waste unless we put another motion for that, which would have been much, much better if it had gone through him totally. Do we want to do hazardous waste? I think we do. Beth is shaking her head.
In your discussions with him,
Sure.
did he say he was gonna do that, or?
Yeah.
Met him at the library, and he went through this, and he said, here's the amount of money for the recycle piece, and we'll include the difference so we can do hazardous waste.
I think what the issue was is he looked at the budget committee's number, which we have to look at because that's what's going to be on the warrant.
Have the
So what we
21,000,
need to do is get where we need to go.
Yeah, I thought it was 21,000 for the hazardous waste.
Yeah, so someone should communicate to Mr. Peck if he's going to put that motion on the floor to add 21 grand into that. Jay, would you be the spearhead to ask him to do that when he puts his motion on the floor for the operating budget?
I can ask him, but I don't know how much he's going to motion. He just talks about the 90, the difference here, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna just round it up to 100, and that's probably still not sufficient for the 21,000, but I guess I can talk to him.
Yeah, if you could do that,
but
that would be good, and we will,
The work they're doing is mainly, trash and recycling, but yes.
Yeah, and hazardous waste. And basically, the bottom line is, we all have the best laid plans of mice and men, but it's really the taxpayers who are going to vote on this, yes or no, with the operating budget, and we really have no idea whether they're even going to approve any of these additions or not.
Right.
So, but we have to try, we have to put it in there. Go ahead.
Was the 21,000 for the hazardous waste day, what happened? Was it just not?
It must have been, I think it was my fault initially because I forgot to add it into the budget because it was a separate line item, and I was just looking at the trash budget. So I think that's where the problem came in.
Okay.
So that was kind of my fault, and I thought we had fixed it on our budget,
Right,
but,
was that communicated to the budget committee?
yeah, I believe Julian tried to do that, and I believe they did not want to vote on that. Is that correct, Julian, when you tried to bring that up?
Hazardous waste cost.
They didn't want to hear it.
They didn't want to hear it. So, but you did bring it to their attention.
Yeah, he
I
did.
tried to bring that to attention. They shut it down and then
Yeah.
said they wouldn't listen to any other recommendations we made. So it was end of story for our recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
All the
Appreciate it.
recommendations we tried to put forward from a previous meeting before that budget meeting were all rejected before they even got to be spoken.
Thank you.
So-
All right. So we'll try to move forward with that.
Do you want me to prepare something, just, to bring with us, and then hopefully Jim will take care of
As a
this?
Plan B, yeah, you might want to do that. You might want to do that. And I hate to put two motions on the floor for the
No, I
same
don't
budget,
I
but,
don't want to do that either.
no, but hopefully we can fix that before Saturday. So do you guys have any more questions about deliberative session?
Well, I only have, it's off subject, but it's not. Last week, we removed one of the warrant articles
Yes.
for expendable trust fund or Old Home Day. I went
Yes.
back and looked at the wording for the formation of that expendable trust fund, and I believe that warrant article would have been illegal anyway.
Oh, all
Because it
right.
says in the creation warrant,
Yeah.
shall the town vote to create an expendable trust fund under the provision of RSA 31:19A for the expressed purpose of depositing any donations or proceeds from the advertising brochure for Old Home Day, which
Ah.
means you could not have put taxpayer
Wow.
money in there.
So thank you for that. That's a
So
great
It
point.
would have been dead anyway because it's not legal by the creation warrant article.
Good point,
It's a good
Julian.
idea, but I didn't even look at this because I was looking at, I went back to the previous town report,
Yep.
looked it up because I was trying to figure out who was, after the Old Home Day meeting we had Sunday, who had the ability to expend the funds, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't just the Old Home Day Committee.
No, it was us too.
Especially when taxpayer money would have possibly could have been put in there, and it says it still would have required the Board of Selectmen, which is what I would have was looking for. But then
Yep.
I read the rest, and I says, wait a minute here. it does not allow you to put any old money in here, especially
That's
taxpayer
awesome.
money.
All right, so we did the right thing even though we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know we actually did the right thing. 'cause
All right.
I did let
Wait a
the
second.
Budget Committee Chair know that if she still thought that was important, and that if you believe that we're gonna do hazardous waste, Old Home Day,
Yeah,
she could make a motion to put it back into the budget.
yes.
Now, she's not, that's not what she's communicating on Facebook. But I just want to make that very, very clear.
Any citizen can do that.
That's exactly right, exactly right. But,
Yeah.
but the motion that we took, basically the warrant that we took, we decided this was a budgeted item, and it should be a budgeted item. And that's why we put it on there. So we had to vote.
Unknowingly, we did the right thing.
To
Let's
put this
fight
on the
that, yeah.
ballot, it failed, we take it off the ballot.
Yeah, but that's the nail in the coffin right there, so thanks for
If
doing
it
the
had
research.
gone on ballot and the DRA didn't catch
Yep,
it,
yep.
and it came down to do it, we
Yep.
wouldn't have been legally allowed to
Yeah.
do it.
All right, so Jay has a comment?
So I just to piggyback on Old Home Day, I did see that they did meet, and it looks like they're gonna have some type of Old Home Day in some fashion or another,
Okay.
so I guess they're
So-
gonna need some funds to do that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the budget for that right now.
Well, I will remind you that our board did keep it in the budget, so we had the money in there, but if a citizen wishes to add money to the operating budget to fund that for this year, all I have to do is put a motion on the floor.
Is it 22.5?
22.5, yep.
Yeah, and the other thing was, I don't really think it's gonna happen.
I agree, Julian.
And there are already committee members who have stepped out for this year and said they're stepping out, including Mr. Peck, because why have meetings on Sunday evenings
Well,
for something we know that's not gonna happen? We had so many meetings last year and nothing happened.
well,
And Old
okay.
Home Day isn't about fireworks, it isn't about contests, it isn't about vendors. Old Home Day is about
Bringing the town
coming
together.
back you're bringing back your history and appreciating your history. And I'd like to even see that come back into Old Home Day, not just to be a vendor fest and a parade.
Well, it will remain to be seen if it's funded, first of all, and they may want to do it in the fall, which maybe, that might be
Yeah.
a better opportunity or time to do it, but I'm going to end this discussion
But if in
because
the
it's not
budget-
part of
but
our
if it's in
agenda.
the budget, our hands don't get tied.
Right, that's right. Okay, so the last piece of our agenda, and I did this to you the last time, to both of us, to Mark and to us, we still have, I believe, a security engineering or systems engineering still online for us for non-public. Well, technically they are, I don't know.
Hi there,
if-
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
They-
here.
You are there. I am so sorry to keep you waiting so long. So I'm going to ask the board, would you mind foregoing yet another time our town manager's report and our selectmen's report so that we can get these poor guys into non-public, or do you want to move forward with the town report?
I would like to hear it. I think he can keep it brief, because
All
I
right.
think it's important for us to know what's going on.
All right,
in
are
the
you
public.
guys okay with that?
Yep.
All right, so Mark, if you wouldn't mind, could you just give us your brief town manager's report, please?
Yes, I need to pull it up online.
Sorry.
So just give me a second.
Sorry, I know I didn't give you
I
a
got-
chance to do this.
I got it. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I had a meeting with 4 previously qualified contract water operators for a pre-proposal meeting. We agreed to push out that date till February for their submittals. We provided them with some addendum material and so forth, but we really have 5 qualified vendors. Only 4 showed up to the meeting. The other one was on the phone. So we're going to come back with a spreadsheet for the board to consider once we receive the proposals. Obviously, the Public Works garage has been upfitted for cable TV and the latest electronics and control room. And I think you're going to be very happy with the sound system, the camera, the laser overhead projector, and everything that we have done to make the deliberative session successful. We continue to work with the town moderator and Dean, and everybody has really done a great job. Utopia business noise and disturbance complaints in town. There's a Utopia Cigar Bar that we've received several complaints since it opened. The most common complaint was from the neighbors related to late hour noise. The Plaistow Police, the health officer, the building code enforcement officer, and the State of New Hampshire Liquor Commission are continuing to work on that business and the issues that keep on cropping up every weekend. So we're on top of it, and we'll see where it goes from here. Greg Colby and I continue to conduct the closing of the books for 2020 and finalizing all the documents and recording them. As recent as tonight, Beth and I went over to the Public Works Garage to post the necessary documents on the inside of the windows at the polling place that's required by law. And she advertised it on the website. The landfill cap construction RFP, you had in your packet a couple weeks ago, and we've just gone ahead and substituted the amount, put the amount in there for the gross amount that would need to be appropriated by warrant article for it to happen. But we never planned on picking an actual vendor until we know that the money has been approved by town meeting. I've been notified by Comcast about the renewal agreement, and I'm working on trying to renew that agreement. I came to the board with that previously. The highway department has established a policy and safety manual, and we're working with all the employees to perform the training with all the departments. The fire suppression systems warrant was sent out with those increased fees.
Good.
And let me see. There's a couple other things, but I'll keep it short tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mark. Do any of the board members want to make a brief statement about anything before we close this down and go into non-public? All right, go ahead, Jay.
I just want to thank all the people that came out for the public hearing. Like Francine said, it's democracy at work, so thank you for all, to all that came out. And hopefully there's more people stepping up to run for positions, so.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. I want to do the same thing. I called some people back, and other people I couldn't call them by phone, so don't take it against it. I didn't read them. I read every one of them. I called some people back and didn't call everybody back. So I didn't read them all, and thank you for all your input.
Okay. All right, so at this point, if there's no other business, we are going to need to go into a non-public session. And I guess the way the protocol is going to work is, John, you need to be present for this, and also systems engineering, but you're on a common webinar call. So what he's going to do is we're going to close this all down, and he's going to reissue you a new invitation to join the webinar so it's secure. Is that correct, Dean? So I'm going to...
They got an email, so just went out at 8:36 for the individuals participating in that session. So as soon as this call is done, we'll be here to get them connected.
Okay. All right. So you understand that, John? So we're going to log you out, and then you got to log back in again under those new credentials, okay?
All right.
Okay. So if there's no other business, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:37. Thank you all, everyone, for listening and participating tonight. We had a great meeting, I think, and I will say goodnight to you, and I'll see some of you at our deliberative session on Saturday.
You have a motion to go in non-public?
Yeah, we need a motion.